105,6.
Kolla. 2, 2, 2. Okej, tagning 1. Hello again, welcome back to another installment. We're gonna take a look at a little fun lens today. Excuse me one moment. Well, one thing I have to say is that I'm a stickler for history, or rather not stickler, I'm just a little bit of a history buff. So what I'm gonna show you today is a lens that I think is a little bit of an unappreciated one. But if you're one of those that are on a budget, like me, and don't have that much money to spend on, the cutting edge, the best gear that is available today, that you just want to have some fun with photography, you might have mostly manual lenses and so on. Well, I have a few manual and a few autofocus. I don't really have many that has internal autofocus. Let's just make that clear. So I'm usually, for now, for instance, I'm using my Vivitar Series 1 wide angle, short zoom on my Nikon D7200. But anyway, what I'm going to show you today is this little feller. This is the Industar 50-2 50mm maximum aperture 3.5 m42 mount pancake lens. That's a mouthful. But anyway, what is this? This here is a old Soviet designed lens that was it was produced in the Soviet Union. And it has the M42 style mount that I think it was Pentax that came out with it, but it was adopted by a lot of camera manufacturers, not the least in the Soviet Union. For instance, this old Zenit TTL that I have here, this 35mm film camera, it has the M42 screw mount on it, and it has a Fujinon lens on it, so it's a Fuji lens. Excuse me, but anyway, this little thing I would say is a unappreciated classic. I mean, people are talking about pancake lenses and so on, and they're quite expensive, but have a look at that. Isn't this a pancake lens? I don't know what is a pancake lens. I'm actually using the, what is this? It's a M42 to Nikon converter, so it uses the Nikon bayonet mount on one side and the M42 screw mount on the other side. And this is the version that has a corrective lens in it, so it's supposed to correct for the focus distance between the back of the lens where it fits into the Nikon and where the Nikon sensor is, so that distance apparently it compensates for that distance. But anyway, this lens, as I stated, is kind of a unappreciated classic. Why? It has kind of a cool history to it. This is apparently based upon a Carl Zeiss Tessar design. So basically, I paid 250 Swedish for this, which is about 25 euros or $28, or I believe about 20 pounds. So it's a cheap lens, but it's called Zeiss technology. Oh yeah, pre-Second World War Carl Zeiss technology. But anyway, that means this is a lens that has very, classic designs in it. People are, still looking for, old school lenses that are, old lenses that can give this, classic bokeh and so on. This is old school bokeh in this lens with a 3.5 maximum aperture and a minimum aperture of 16, and it has a stepless aperture sweep. So when you sweep both the aperture and the focus, since this is a completely manual lens, you actually have to, focus yourself. So you have to, once again with this lens, you have to go into your camera setting and type in the specifications for this lens. But anyway, this lens, I would say, is a really, really old school lens. You don't have any fancy coatings or anything like that in this lens, so you will get sun flare and so on when you shoot with this and you shoot in sunlight. But some people like that. Some people really like those aberrations or those artifacts in the photos. Some people even strive to get it and try to use maybe Photoshop and so on to get those effects. But I tell you, this lens, you get it for free. But anyway, what I like with this lens, as I said, it's an old Carl Zeiss design, or based on an old Carl Zeiss designs. The smooth, stepless aperture can both be a con and a pro. That is because when you're sweeping the aperture, you can actually bump your focus ring as well, because you have this outer little ring here is the aperture, and then this bigger part here is the focus, and it's supposed to focus from infinity to what's the minimum on this? It's 0.65 meters, which is 65 centimeters. I don't know what that is in inches, unfortunately. You just have to take one of those converters on the internet and check out what did we say now? 0.65 meters or 65 centimeters or 6 decimeters and 5 centimeters, excuse me. Anyway, so this lens, I would say, is a good old school lens. If you want a pancake lens for not much money, nothing can beat this little thing. Anyway, it's a full, as I said, stepless aperture, and it's a 100% full metal construction, so it has a little bit of heft to it for being so small. A little bit of we have talked about some pros and some cons. Well, the cons can be close to infinity focus. It doesn't really focus to infinity, I've noticed. I tried to take some shots out of the window to bird feeders and so on, and that's far enough to take it to infinity, and I can see it's almost infinity, almost, it's not quite there, but that can be a little bit of the charm for this lens. This is something that you might use at a little bit closer distance. It's not really meant to be a far away lens, but that also means that if you focus at something close and use a high f-stop, close to 3.5, you will get some fairly nice background bokeh. But anyway, a little bit of the meh type things with this lens. It's that what you can see when you shoot with this one is that under f8 it becomes very soft in the corners. It becomes soft all around. But this is I'm using this on an APS-C body, so it can have something with that. It can have something to do with that it's an APS-C and not a full frame. These were, as you might understand, these were meant to be used on 35mm film. But since most people today have switched to digital or do both digital and film, and most people who are amateurs like me are using APS-C cameras, at least on this one, it gives a bit of softness in the corners. But that's under f8. If you go towards 16, if you raise it, it will smooth out. And you have a little bit of vignetting sometimes with this lens as well in the corners. But overall, it's a cheap little fun lens Doesn't cost much money. It's an old Soviet USSR made lens. It uses the M42 screw mount, so you need to get an adapter if you want to use it on your modern DSLR. But for what it is, it's a small little fun lens. It's a pancake lens on the cheap, so everybody out there is saying, "Ooh, I got a pancake lens, I got a pancake lens." Well, I got one too. It didn't cost me that much, and it's fun. It has some fun history behind it. It's old school, fully manual, full metal, and it's a 7-blade aperture design. So all in all, I would say this is a fun little cheap novelty item, I would say. I mean, to quote guitarist Keith Richards, you have to take everything in account if it's a tool or a toy. This is kind of the middle ground. It's kind of a plaything. It's something that you can use for fun. It will give you old school photographies. It will give you that vignetting and so on. So it won't produce the sharpest thing in the tool shed. It's not the sharpest lens ever. It's not claiming to be anything of that. It's just a piece of history. It can still be used. It's cheap. It starts to become a little bit of a cult following. Excuse me. And it's one of those things that just works. And I would say, would I recommend it? Well, if you're one of those who wants a cheap pancake lens that doesn't cost much, that is a bit fun, if you can stand the slow focusing process, the slow, aperture change on it. I mean, this can maybe be something if you do video because of the smooth aperture on it. And the 7-blade design is fairly nice. It's a good thing to have to create those soft, and since it's stepless in it, you don't have the clicks to change the aperture. It's completely smooth. So would I recommend it? Yes, I would. It's a really fun piece of history that deserves a place in modern photography, in my opinion. And it's a little bit of a plus in the corner that's based on the old Carl Zeiss Tessar technology. But anyway, that's all for me for now, and take care till next video, and I'll see you then. Peace out.